Hey guys, Mike here. So first we're going to talk about the housing market. Second, I want to clear up something I talked about yesterday. One of you guys asked me a question, and I'm going to show you exactly what I'm talking about with a visual I found yesterday for you. And then we'll go into the charts and stuff. I mean, obviously, it has some good movement today. More downgrades, more upgrades, setting us up for what? CPI tomorrow, right? So big day, and then bank earnings the day after that. So it's funny how certain stocks I'll show you are put in certain positions, right? When you go, is that a setup or is that actually legit? We're going to find out. Now, when it comes to the housing data, really quickly here, you see mortgage applications took a big pop right here, as you can see right there. And what's interesting about this, and I was talking to the members about this, is like supply and demand. This is an interesting thing here, and I'm thinking about the rules of supply and demand, and I'm looking it up, and obviously supply has grown, but if you compare it to 10 years ago, we're almost half of that housing supply we were just 10 years ago. Okay, so I'll show you the chart. It's gone down tremendously. One, because home builders are building even slower now, and one, because inputs are a lot more expensive. But obviously, the supply is kind of stagnant and growing because people just aren't buying, can't afford it, right? And so now that rates are coming down, my big question is on it, if all of a sudden there's this really big influx of demand for these houses and supply is still way down at like record level lows, how are the prices not going to just go back up? Because they've been steadily kind of dropping, right? And so if rates drop and this huge supply and demand comes in, demand supply, right? But the supply is not going to like all of a sudden shoot up, right? Because they can't. Then how are prices not going to go back up? Like, that's what I don't really understand. That people keep saying, no, prices are going to fall off a cliff. And I'll say, well, if we hit a recession, sure. But if rates keep dropping and we hit this soft landing narrative and you see mortgage rates continue to drop, it's not like the home builder is going to just pick up the pace and build enough and build us out of this. That supply is still going to be down here. Prices are going to go up, aren't they? And if they go up, what does that do? Right? I mean, the housing market's already in a conundrum. We're supposed to be in this great economy, but the housing market is just stagnant. Okay, and so question, please put in the comments. Some of you guys are really into that industry. I just don't get how prices aren't going to go back up. It doesn't make any sense to me, and especially how are prices just going to continue to drop if there's a surge in demand? I don't really get that. Now, as far as yesterday, I showed you this, and I talked to you about the money market fund. You see how it's ticking up. There's no sign of money coming out of money market funds and flowing in and coming off the sidelines and all that good stuff. When it does, yes, we have a great move up and stuff. But as I showed you, or I told you, I'm sorry, and I'm fixing to show you, you don't need that money. Okay, what do I mean by this? Just look at this right here. This is one ETF. This is the most popular one, the S&P 500 ETF Trust. It had a record amount of money, $52 billion, just in that one ETF now last year in 2023. New record. You wouldn't think that, right? If all this money is flowing into money markets and flowing into bonds and all that stuff. But you can see people bought that ETF and many others like it. But I'm just showing you, and you saw what the market did, right? It went parabolic. And so you don't need it. When it does happen, though, obviously, yes, it does help out. Now, of course, why are they doing this? Well, it's smart to do it because instead of picking the individual stocks, you don't want to do it because some of them are super expensive anyway. You get exposure to, most of the Mag 7. You get Eli Lilly and some of these other companies, right? Like Berkshire Hathaway and stuff like that. So you get the top 10 stocks make up 33% anyway, right? But there's still Nvidia in here and AMD and all these other stocks in there as well. And so you get exposure to all those stocks, as well as you can see right here the sectors, right? So if you like information technology, 28%, financials 13%, healthcare, all that good stuff. And so there's a reason why it is basically the S&P or all that stuff is the most popular one that's bought up because it gives you a great exposure. But I just wanted to visually show you too why you do not need that money to come off the sidelines in order for the market to go up. And I did a members video on this yesterday. I think it surprised a lot of people of actually when this money will flow in. And so, we'll see how it plays out. But I want to show that to you now. The S&P, something happened very interesting today on this one. And guys, before we continue, please hit that thumbs up button. I really appreciate it when you guys do that for me. It helps people find the video, which a lot of new people have been. And if you like the content, think about subscribing. I appreciate all your support. And of course, today it had a green day. You can see the 5-day moving average there. Pointing up, which is a good thing. When it's pointing down, it's a bad thing. A lot of people look at this and they say, when it's pointing down, don't get involved. Time to short it, as you can see on the chart. But again, it's staying right between these levels, right? Of the 4,700 to 4,800 range right there. And it's so weird. I'm looking at this because like ES with the futures, which I actually follow, that one has hit a new all-time high, but the S&P has not yet. It's still very little off. But if obviously CPI comes in below or even probably at expectations, you can see a real strong reaction because we're so close. If you look, that's all-time highs over there to being at this thing. I mean, it's less than 1% away. And we've seen some crazy reactions on CPI day to the downside and the upside. So, tomorrow you could see it. But again, we do have financial earnings coming out on Friday. So just a lot of stuff happening here. Now, going to the Qs, this one right here was just aiming for this gap. That's all I was doing, aiming for the gap. We started off this year in. It filled that gap successfully. Didn't do much after that, which we expected. But that was where it was aiming all day long. And the Qs were stronger, which, I mean, is normal because why? What's happening? More money's piling into the Mag 7, your NVIDIA, your Googles, which you get into, starting to go back into Microsoft, all these different stocks. And that's where you talked about what's going to happen when they say, oh, maybe we're not getting 6 rate cuts, maybe we're getting 3. Well, then, of course, what was the play last year when no rate cuts were in view? It was the Mag 7 because they're the safest bet, right, when it comes to earnings and cash flow and all this stuff, right? So that's not surprising, and I think that's why you're seeing small caps being stalled out right now, and that's why you're seeing stuff like this, which I was going to cover Meta first because this is like the cleanest chart, man. When you look at this, that is what you want to see. You don't see parabolic crap on there. It is just a higher high and a higher low and all that good stuff, and when you pan out, it looks even better. A lot of consolidation along the way of this crazy move it's had. And when you pan out also, that's all-time highs, guys. This thing is 4% away from all-time highs. I mean, it has been a long trip because the fall was huge. I'm not sure if I can remember a mega cap falling that much. I mean, well, Tesla, I guess, also. But besides those two, it's just crazy, right? And what they did to that stock before running it back up. And so, again, when you pan out, though, it's moving up, consolidation, moving up. Look at that. Just nice and smooth, right? Nothing straight up, nothing anything. If it does fall down, it has support. And you got that nice consolidation from July to like November area right there before it started to move up again. So, that one, that is a healthy chart in my opinion. Now, when you look, here's Apple. Once again, is this like what is this, the third or fourth downgrade now in 2024? Didn't affect it really. It started off red, went green for the day. But this is another one of those, you're going to draw this trend line here. And what I'm wondering is if this thing is just going to start doing this wedging action again, where it's just going to start moving up and just wedging in that, waiting for a more explosive move. And again, I think CPI, financials, all that stuff is going to have a big play on this. But when you look at this one, I mean, obviously, the market is going to go how Apple goes, right? And so as Apple somewhat started to recover here, the market started to recover. Also, other stocks started to recover. And, you could see something like this right here. But, don't forget, we still got the 200 there. That's where it bounced from. And we still got that long-term trend line going back to, I believe it was 03 for crying out loud. So, this one definitely has support in place. It's definitely a technical bounce. Again, a lot of this data and how the market's going to sit there and accept it's going to really tell us more about it. But, then there's Amazon. Once again, I don't know how many upgrades this is, but it's quite a few now for Amazon. This one from Goldman Sachs, one of the big boys, right? And this has been a nice move. It's like one of the members said, he wish he would have bought calls. Well, who knows there's going to be like 4 upgrades, okay? And so they've just been upgrading the brakes off this one. So, of course, it's had a nice move. Now, is that parabolic like you see in NVIDIA? No, of course not. That's not how Amazon moves anyway. And again, this one's going to have problems when it gets up to that level right there, no doubt. But you can see that's how Amazon moves right there. It moves up, and it's going to consolidate sideways for long periods of time. This is not a parabolic stock, never has been, probably never will be. And again, this was being picked because of the growth in the cloud and everything it has. And, because the e-commerce business has never really made it a lot of profit and everything. The margins aren't that great, but it's just very dominant, right? And it keeps running a lot of its competition out of business. And so, but this one, I think they're putting a price target like 200, and a lot of firms are. So we'll see if it gets there. I mean, it's gonna be. I mean, I think all-time highs is like 190 or something like that. So it's not even that far above all-time highs. Now Tesla, I would say a rough day, ended green, but definitely still a rough day. You can see right here, once again, it comes down. This one, people are like, "Ooh, wait a minute." Sit there, bounce in that area again. I think it's the 11th time. The 200 is right below it. And, I mean, that area, so far, if you'd have played 11 times, you'd have been victorious, right? I mean, it keeps holding, consolidating right there in that range. Again, it's like that $5 range. That's what it's been giving us for like the last 4 or 5 days here. And so this one definitely needs to start moving up because you're down that area. And if you break that, especially that 200, yeah, you're going to get that gap fill below it. It might even challenge that daily fair value gap down there as well. But again, this one I think will react like the rest of them off CPI tomorrow, maybe get a big move. But I hadn't seen a lot of call volume coming in on this one. Like NVIDIA had tons of bullish flow over the last 3 or 4 days, which is what's been driving it up. I mean, those calls are super expensive now. And so we'll see if some love maybe flows into Tesla. We'll have to see. Google sitting here, I didn't see any upgrades or anything, but it had a nice move today. Continues just to move its way up methodically and stuff, running into some resistance around that 142.77 area. Again, to the left, that is all-time highs. Below around that 137 area. It's very good support for it. So, we'll see if it comes back down, retest that trend line, and bounces before its next move. But this one's looking good. It's another pick that obviously the big firms have been choosing as well. And then Palantir, nice move for Palantir. Again, it's actually right up against the 100. It was right above it, right below it, at trend line right there, as you can see. A lot of resistance right above in that area, and I'm telling you, there are shorts going to be sitting here for this one right here at that fair value gap. Once it fills that gap and gets to that fair value gap, people are going to try to short it. I almost guarantee it's going to happen right here. That don't mean it's going to work, right? Because what could happen if they try to short it, that can make it go parabolic. But when you look, when they're retracing this thing up, you're like, well, okay, a lot of resistance, going to be sitting there right above the golden pocket, coming into a fair value gap, should have a move back down. That's what we're going to have to wait and see, right? And again, I think Palantir is going to move how the market moves, right? That's just the way it is. If the market starts to shift back up, we go back in an uptrend, which long-term we're in an uptrend, the shorter if you're going on hourly and stuff or not. But, if it starts to do that, then yeah, and those shorts are going to get cooked. I mean, that's for sure. And here we are at Microsoft. I always love going into a big econ day like CPI and stuff when it's setting right there at all-time highs again. But, here's what sell-offs give you. There it is. It's got a bullish MACD cross on the daily. RSI is nowhere near in the overbought territory. So momentum's starting to pick back up. And so again, this one's probably going to end up, well, obviously CPI comes in like crap. It'll be a double top and they'll sell the whole market off. But if it comes in even decent or up, there you go. All-time highs once again very quietly for Microsoft. Shopify continuing to push up, man. It's going into that fair value gap. And look at this one. Because of that sell-off, all of a sudden you're getting another bullish MACD cross. The RSI is not overbought. You can see when it does get on its runs, if it wants to, it can stay in overbought for quite a long time. And so, again, we'll have to see how it reacts off this fair value gap right here. That is a 4-hour fair value gap. Now, as far as earnings, nothing to worry about tomorrow, but this is what we're up against here on out, right? You see the 12th, that's all the banks. And you can just see it is going to be a fun as always, earnings season. And you can see Tesla will be, I think, the first Mag 7 to report on the 24th. The big boys, Microsoft and Apple and Meta, don't report till the week after. Again, NVIDIA is way later on, so you don't have to worry about them. I know Google's on here somewhere, but I never can find their little icon on here. So it's going to be loaded. I mean, a lot of people are going to be watching the banks, especially for the regional banks, see what they're going to do to see if regional banks continue to rally or not. And then here's the big econ news tomorrow, right? You have your jobs data on top of all the CPI data, core inflation rate month over month, year over year. You can see they're expecting a drop right there. And as these numbers get tighter and tighter, it's going to be hard to hit these. So we'll have to figure it out. But this is what the Fed wants to see right here. And then you'll have a 30-year bond auction as well in the afternoon. And then on Friday, we get to all the bank earnings. Okay, so the next 2 days are going to be fun to say the least. Again, OPEX next week, one of the largest OPEX probably ever, will be in January of next week. So, is volatility back? Absolutely, volatility is back. Like you're seeing some major swings right here on these stocks. And, people are like, well, why is the Mag 7 all of a sudden performed again? I just think it has to do with the rates. To be honest with you, and the rate cuts, and them not seeing, ooh, man, I get no rate cuts. How about that? And you've noticed yields, they've been popping back up, right? Well, why are yields popping back up? When did they drop? They dropped when the Fed paused, and all of a sudden they started pricing in these rate cuts that were supposed to start in March. Again, that's 2 months away. It's not even 2 months away. I'm sorry, March. What were we? 45 days away, something like that. What is it? No, I'm sorry, 51 days. And so really, because right now the economic data is not showing there's going to be a cut, and unless the inflation data comes in like super low and just really blows the market away, which will put it in, turbocharge, then no. And so the market, again, what does it do? It starts to try to reprice. Like, okay, there's not going to be that many rate cuts. Maybe we need to come down, sell off some before we start buying back in. And then what are the safe stocks? Well, the Mag 7's been coming back. IWM's kind of stalling out, right, and selling down. So I think there's a reason for that. That don't mean IWM ain't going to do good or whatever. Just saying for now, that's what all this rally's been about. And so, like I said, if they're wrong, what do? Just sell it off. Start moving back up eventually. That's the way it works. Simple as that. Liquidity grabs, liquidity grabs, liquidity grabs, right? And so anyway, hope you guys got something out of it. I'll be here to report CPI and stuff like that for tomorrow. We'll see how the market reacts. And if there's any questions, please put them in the bottom because I'll start doing Saturday's video tomorrow as well. And I'll end up seeing you guys later. Have a good one.